Hey there! Last year I did this video and I shared about my fears about learning to be consistent in my homeschool. You see, I am a easily scattered, easily distracted homeschool mom. Maybe you can relate to that. Let me know if you can in the comments. But in this video, I shared the things that have helped me be a little bit more consistent. So I am still growing in this skill, as we all are. I've still failed in a lot of areas, but there are some things that I'm continuing to work on to be more consistent in my homeschool. So this is a little update video to share with you. What am I doing now to be more consistent in my homeschool? And what were my struggles over the last few weeks through the first semester? Stick around to see that, and I'm so glad you're here. Okay, to start this off, if you didn't know, at the beginning of this school year, I created the Living Books Homeschool Planner. It all started out with just making the pages so I could give something to you guys. I have them in my shop. I think you can get just a couple pages for free. You can get all of these pages for a really affordable price. But last year, I put them all together into an actual planner. So all you do is download it and you just hit print and voila, it goes. You can send it to a printing company and they can bind it for you. I did it all here at home. You can see it's not super pretty, but it's more about function rather than about pretty at this point in my life. So here it is, functioning very well. The whole point is I created this to help me have a little more consistency in my homeschool. One of the things I like to do as a Charlotte Mason homeschool mom is we use living books. And we use them together and we use them all individually for each of my kids. So I have spaces in here to organize their individual reading lists, but I also have my morning time checklist. So in here, I created it where it's more of a reverse planning thing. Anyway, I can go all into this in another video, but I just wanted to show you how I stopped using it. Yes, I stopped using my own planner. Sorry guys, but it was only for a couple months. I did really well at the beginning of the year, okay? But hey, you know what? We all make mistakes. We all get off the make mistakes, but we all fall off the bandwagon. And I wanna let you know that I do too. I fall off the bandwagon and I stop using my planner. You know what? The whole point is to have a good, healthy, happy homeschool and not be checking all the boxes. So it's okay if I missed a few boxes to check. But I do wanna explain to you, it is more of a reverse planner, where you check off what you did do and not what you want to do. And that's what's been helpful for me. But I noticed in my loop here, I was not following these very well. I was kind of just all over the place. I didn't know what we were doing when, and it was more of a like, if we feel like it, we're gonna do that subject. If we feel like it, we'll do geography today. If we feel like it, we'll do our poems today. And I found after a few weeks of doing that, we never really felt like it. And there was a lot of things kind of dropping off the other bandwagon, off the train, other trains we were getting off of. And again, a lot of these things are kind of extra. They're not core subjects, but these are important subjects to me, to my family, for my kids' growth. As a Charlotte Mason homeschool mom, it's important to me that they do a hymn. They have a memory verse. We have a poem. We have our grammar. We have a chapter book that we're reading. We do science, we do history, we do art, Spanish, geography, and something else. I realized my checklist was not serving me anymore, so I needed to update it a little bit. The bare bones is still there, and I still love the format of having it each week. I love having a space to write a little bit of what we did, and I love being able to check off and see what we did do, so I know what I'm missing and what I'm not missing. So I'm not throwing it all out. It's not all or nothing. I just updated a little list so I can use my planner better. Now, I'll show this to you in a little bit, but now I scribbled all of this onto a piece of paper and I just wrote it all down and I was like, okay, what are we doing? What are we not doing? What do I want to do? I actually have an evaluation form that I created for you guys. If you want to see my process for how I figured all this out, you can go check that out in the link below. But it's just a little worksheet, a couple worksheets that you can work through, that I worked through, and you can see how I did that. But I ended up writing everything I needed to do. I wanted to figure out when we were doing it so it can be more consistent, because again, we never feel like it. Don't forget, we never feel like it. I asked myself, what am I doing daily? What are we gonna do 3 times a week? What do we need to just loop, etc. What are we doing? Monthly? That's not happening. So I wrote all that down, and then I made it a little more prettier, and I went to Canva and made some lists for myself. Now, these lists for me are guidelines and frameworks. And I've explained this in previous videos where if I don't have a guideline, if I don't have a framework, then we're not going to be hitting or shooting at anything, you know? Think of it as like a target. If I were to go out playing archery with my bow and arrow and shoot it, and there was no target, I wouldn't be hitting anything. I'd be like, oh, let's shoot it over there. Oh, let's shoot it over there. There would be no consistency. So within the way I think, maybe this is how you think, let me know in the comments if this is how you think. With the way I think, if I have something to shoot for, I'm more likely to shoot it, but I still need some flexibility within that framework. So I call it flexibility within the framework. So these lists here that I made are my framework for this semester. I've been making things like this for the last several years. And when I was younger, when my kids were younger, I guess I was younger too, but when my kids were younger, I would make these lists and I would think, oh, this is it. This is the end all be all list that I'm going to be using for the rest of their homeschool careers. And then 6 months later, 2 months later, it would change and it would need a change and an update. And I would get so down on myself, again, all that all or nothing thinking. I would get so down on myself and throw it all out being like, oh, this is terrible. But what I'm realizing now in my wisdom after doing that for nearly 10 years, is that it's okay to change and make an updated framework. Your framework can change every semester or every year. I think those are great times to change it. Any more than that may be a little bit crazy for everybody, for your kids' sake. But looking at, each semester, changing your framework and keeping it still a nice guideline that you can follow. That's my long spiel. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Here we go. So what I needed to do was come up with my loops and my family worship plan and a minimum day. These are all fun things that are super important for my homeschool, and I'll show you what these are. I noticed that in order to do language arts, I needed to do a little bit of a loop, or more of a consistent loop. Let's just say that. I didn't do all of these things every day, but they needed to be done at least once or twice a week, if not 2 times. So I wrote down they need to read 30 minutes and do their spelling lesson. They need to do their writing assignment, a grammar assignment, and possibly a research assignment. And I was just having them read every day, spelling every day, but I'm realizing with what we're doing, we need to just kind of loop through it. So I made a loop there, and now we can go from one to the next, to the next, to the next, and then go back to the top and then start over. So I have a little guideline there. And then I have 2 other loops that I really needed to organize. Loop 1 is kind of like the subjects that I was doing mostly in morning time. Some of these were not getting done very consistently or at all, because I never really felt like doing them. and so I needed okay, when are we doing this? And I know we can't do Spanish, geography, logic, and worldview every day, but I want to get to it at least once or twice a week. Therefore, I made this loop. So this is my other loop that I follow. If you want to learn more about loop subjects, I do have a video on how to do that. If you want to check that out, hopefully that will help you. You can watch that one after this, if you don't know about loop subjects yet. Well, by the way, welcome to Joyful Noise Learning. I am Ashley, and I am a former English teacher, and I currently homeschool my 3 kids. They are 8, 11, and 13 right now. I've been homeschooling them for about 10 years. Be sure to consider subscribing. I'd love to have you stick around here with me. My mission is to help you grow in your homeschool and adapt it to your child's needs, and to help you find joy in your family and honor Jesus. Here we love to talk about Charlotte Mason inspired homeschool, curriculum to help the scattered and easily distracted homeschool mom, as well as biblically based resources and curriculum. All right, so that was my second loop, even though it says loop 1. Just bear with me. LA loop, loop 1. Now we got the loop 2, social studies, science, and the read aloud. As you notice, these are 3 very important things, but these are 3 very important things that I do not always get to every day. I also believe in this season, they do not have to be done every day. If you've been following me for a while, you know I don't do history or science every day, let alone every week. Read aloud we were consistent, we were doing every day. But in one of my latest videos about my mid-year update, I shared that I'm changing Read Aloud. We're not gonna do it every day. The thing is, we're trying this new framework here, and I hope it'll help me get things done that needed to get done, because we were doing Read Aloud every day, but we were not getting science done. And we weren't getting history done. I needed to make a change. I needed to make an update. And that's what I've done. So we're gonna loop through those 3 things. The other thing I needed to write down and remember was, I highly recommend this, guys, your minimum day. If you have a day where things are just off, you're sick, your kids are sick, everybody's exhausted from hanging out with friends the night before, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like sometimes there's those days, or the day after a holiday, or the day after a weekend even, where none of you have the energy to pull off a full day of school. I needed to come up with what is our minimum day. And I've kind of had this in the back of my head, but I would forget it. Every time we'd get to that day, you know, those days, and it would happen, I'd be like, oh, we need to do school today, but I don't know what to do. I'm so tired, I can't think of it. And we would do, I don't know, maybe a math lesson and watch Bluey, you know, or something like that. Like I wouldn't feel satisfied, or I'd be like rushed, like, oh, we have to do this, we have to do that, we have to do this. And the kids would be overwhelmed, like, why are you rushing us, mommy? So I put it on paper. So I remember on a minimal day, like one of those days where we're off, they need to do their morning jobs and unload the dishes, get dressed, brush their teeth. They need to do their Bible, or we do Bible all together, either one. They do one math lesson. They can do their thinking tree journals, because that's a little more independent and fun for them. They need to read for 30 minutes of their choice, and either play outside or do an exercise video, depending on the weather. So that is what I came up with. It's kind of been our minimal day, that's what I'm saying, but I needed to write it down so I can see it with my eyes and be like, oh yeah, that's what we're doing today. So there's my guideline. And then the last thing that I had to do was, you know, I need to wrap my brain around like, what is going on for each day? When are we out of the house? When do we have co-op? When do we have church stuff? You know, piano lessons, all those things. That's what I scribbled down on my piece of paper. I wrote it all out. What does a week look like? And when can we fit in our school stuff? Because I really need that guideline. Because again, if it's not written down somewhere, if I don't have an idea, it's not gonna get done. Came up with my little routine for what happens when we don't have co-op. And I have another routine for what happens when we do have co-op, because that makes the week look a little bit different, because our co-op days are pretty much eaten up by co-op. There's not a lot of room for really any other school at this time. If they need that, you know, when the kids are in high school, we'll work with it. But this is for right now. That's the whole point, is I need to remember I'm making my guideline for right now, for this semester. This is not the be all end all Bible of all routines and weekly routines. So I'm trying to remind myself of that and realize, okay, I've got a routine for now. Next semester will probably change. We can keep probably the bare bones of it, work around that. But as my kids age and change and join different clubs or have different loads for school, I really do have to adapt to what their needs are in that time. A lot of these skills that I've learned for managing my time, which has been a huge weakness of mine, but I've kind of turned it into a strength because I've worked with my weaknesses. But I've learned so much from Misty Winkler at Simply Convivial. And Misty has this amazing group called Simplified Organization, Community Coaching. That's right. So it's a simplified circle community coaching. Anyway, I'll put a link to that in the description below. I want you guys to check that out. You can use my code. I'll put that in the description as well. I think it's Joyful15, I think. Just check the description. I'll have the details, or I'll put it across the screen here. But I want you to check out Misty's group, because in this group, I have learned to manage my time and have some skills to prioritize my time and the things that the kids need to do right now, and the roles that I have, both as a homeschool mom and as, you know, all the other things that I do. We're not all just homeschooling moms. We all have other vocations. And I have learned so much from Misty over the last 8 years probably that she's been mentoring me online. So you can check out her group and her community. She also has a new book out, which I've shared in my email list. It's called Simplified Organization, Learning to Love What Must Be Done. And in this book, this has like really everything that I've learned from her is all in a little book. But it's so good because it's not just practical tips on how to manage your time, but it also is a heart and attitude check. Like, how do you manage yourself? What are your thoughts? What are your attitudes as a homemaker and as a homeschooling mom? It's really great. And it's not just for homeschooling moms. It is geared towards homeschooling moms for sure, but other women can definitely benefit from it as well. So you can share it with your friends and you can all join together for this year. Okay, so back to my morning time checklist that I stopped using. What I ended up doing, it's not pretty now, but it's okay. It doesn't have to be pretty. Function over pretty, and that's how it is for me anyway. Some people go pretty over function, but that's not me. Anyway, so I wrote in here what we are actually doing, and I crossed off the things we're not doing, and I wrote in the things, so that way I literally can just go down the list and check it off. That's a little peek at how I've decided to use it and how I've changed my framework. If you would like more information about the Living Books Homeschool Planner, let me know. Don't forget the Decluttering Your Homeschool evaluation worksheets that I had made. You can check those out as well to help you go through the process that I did for this current semester. If you'd like to check out more videos, you might like the ones that I mentioned here. You rock at homeschooling. Go find his joy among the noise, and I'll see you in the next one.